Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Eljay Johnsen Show. This show airs every Saturday, usually at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're running a little bit late today to accommodate for our guest, who I'm quite excited to have on. And let me just go ahead and, well, before I do that, let me get a couple things out of the way. If you have any questions for our guests over the week, feel free to send me an email at ljjohnson@gmail.com. And if you have any questions during this show, go ahead and send them to me at the Eljay Johnsen on Twitter, hashtag the Eljay Johnsen Show, and we'll try and get around to them before the end of the show. So I'm quite excited for my next guest. My next guest, a little bit of backstory. So, long time ago, a galaxy far, far away, on a mythical island, 6 canisters washed up on a golden beach. And these are our heroes, the Toa. And the Toa, their quest was to defeat Makuta. So they ventured around the island and collected great masks of power that they used to inevitably fight the Makuta and his evil minions. And even find a 7th Toa, Toa of Light. And one day they were walking, and they were going through a dark alley trying to get to their location a little bit faster, using it as a shortcut. And my guest, he jumps out of the shadows, holds him at gunpoint, and says, "Give me all your masks!" And that's where we are now. I'm introducing, of course, Andre Hurley, otherwise known as Mask Collector. How are you doing?
Doing well. How's it going?
It's going. It's I made some cookies earlier, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Alrighty.
Yeah. So, of course, a lot of people would know you as the mythical owner of the Platinum Avohkii. Now, for those of whom are listening who are not Bionicle fans or well in tune with the story, please explain what the Platinum Avohkii is.
Alright. So, essentially, the Platinum Avohkii was one of a handful of one-of-a-kind items that was produced by LEGO. Almost all of these one-of-a-kind items are given away through contests and, so forth. The mask itself is considered the rarest Bionicle collectible in, the history of G1 and G2 as well. Currently, it's also the most expensive single LEGO piece to ever, sell anywhere on the market. A lot of people do consider it the rarest LEGO piece in general. Other people tend to classify that, there's other older parts that are also extremely rare, such as, a 2x4 solid gold brick. That one is very old and very rare as well. But a lot of people do consider the Platinum Avohkii like the rarest LEGO piece that was ever produced. But yeah, it was, given away through a contest, and luckily I was able to snag it up from the second owner. And yeah, so it's been the prized piece to my collection for quite some time, and it's actually a pretty crazy story. So
yeah, I want to get into that story in just a moment, because it is a lengthy tale. It's actually quite fascinating all in all, specifically given the history of this item. First, let me go ahead and talk about you a little bit, because, I like to focus on the individual and the circumstances surrounding them. So, tell me, how did you...
Sounds good.
How did you get into LEGO, the community overall, and how have your experiences been with both of those?
So, essentially, I found out about Bionicle when I was just a kid. Pretty much the same story as a lot of people. My first set I ever owned was Kongu Tahunga from the McDonald's pack. I just, me and my grandma, we went to the McDonald's, got some lunch, and lo and behold, there was a Bionicle in it. And at the time, I had no idea what it was, anything like that. And who would have known, a little 8-piece set that would have started it all. But yeah, I've been around in the Bionicle community for quite some time, on and off throughout the years. I actually, a lot of things that some people tend to think is, I collect all these different LEGO themes and so on, when in actuality, the only thing I actually collect is Bionicle. I've always found other sets interesting, or, like, very, I guess, articulate. They're kind of... I've always found them fascinating to a sense, but I never really got anything else other than Bionicle stuff, just because, the story always appealed to me, and the set design, the cool functions, and the other main thing was, being a kid, Bionicle was very playable. You wouldn't have to worry about, if you're playing with the set, that it would fall apart and you'd have to reassemble it to keep going, and so on. So I just found that very awesome myself. And so I've been, slowly but surely building up the collection ever since.
All right, excellent. Yeah, you're right. That seems pretty run of the mill, pretty getting to Bionicle real early on. Have you ever been into any other Lego themes? Maybe System, Technic?
Some of the Technic stuff. Like I said, I haven't actually really bought anything else like new in box necessarily from stores. I've collected other pieces from the Throwbots and Slicers and so forth. Some of the more classic stuff, mostly just for certain mocks, the occasional mocks, and then also combo models and stuff for the G1 collection tend to use some pretty obscure parts. And so, anytime I get to like a Lego hobby shop or, things like that, I tend to pick up some odds and ends that to me I've either never seen or I know are just kind of a weird piece and maybe I can find a use for in a mock or, so on. But I've actually never really bought any other Lego sets other than Bionicle stuff, other than just as gifts or, like, okay, this has a good amount of parts in there that I could utilize for certain things. So, yeah.
Okay, fascinating. So, before we get into like the full story of the Platinum Avohkii, you also have a general collection of Bionicle. I think you are in contention with one other individual, who I'm also going to have on the show at some point, for the largest Bionicle, the most complete Bionicle collection, period. It's you and him. And so tell me a little bit about that. I'm curious as to how that you came to the realization this is something you wanted to do.
All right. So essentially what it was, growing up, I just loved the story. I loved the toys. The sets themselves, just when I was a kid, some of them were fairly expensive, so I could never really get those during the year they came out. So, some of the sets I ended up getting later on, or I just really liked the look of the set, so I would, get on eBay and see if I could find a good deal on it and so forth, because some of the sets were pretty pricey at the time point when, I was younger and everything. But really the realization was, I've kind of was like, okay, well, I have some of these sets. I got some as birthday presents. I saved up allowance money from doing chores and so on. And I kept building up the sets because at the time it was, okay, the storyline's still developing. And, I like the story. I like the look of the designs. And I just, I really wanted to just have them all just for the sake of playing with and, to reenact story parts, make my own stories up. And as I got older, I was like, well, I have a good bit of this stuff, and it would be really cool to finish this idea of like a collection, because when I was a kid, I never really thought of it as a collection. I thought of it more as just, the cool figures to play with and reenact stories and so on. But as I got older, it was more of a nostalgic, like, this was my childhood. I had so many great memories with friends, going to the stores together and picking up the newest sets and just seeing the new teasers and trailers and stuff for the newest sets and storyline. And I just remember, that it just was awesome to me as a kid. And so, over time, it just slowly evolved into, well, I already have this, so why don't I try to get this? And then once I had, whatever that may be, it was, okay, what's the next step? What's the next thing I could try to get to try to make this a little more complete? And as I got older, it was, like I say, I was like, well, I already have all of this stuff. Why don't I try to get the rest and fill in some of these gaps? And over time, it's developed into this massive hobby that's just, to me, it's still something I love to do. I love to collect, and I'm looking to complete some of the stuff here. And, it's just one of those things that I guess you could kind of say I have an obsession for, but a lot of people view an obsession as a bad thing, and I tend to view them as good things. So,
I think, in some instances, I think that's perfectly accurate. Being obsessed over Lego, or rather, I like to put it, it's a lot better to be addicted to Lego than to be addicted to drugs. So I definitely think of all the hobbies.
That's very true.
Yeah, of all the hobbies you could get into, Lego's probably a pretty good one. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there.
Yeah. Okay, so a little bit of background for anyone listening who may be unfamiliar with the Platinum Avohkii. This mask was given away for, I believe, a Toonami contest. A Toonami is a bracket of, I want to say Cartoon Network. I didn't grow up on cartoons, so I don't know.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was given away through Toonami, through Cartoon Network, and a collaboration with Lego. So.
There we go. Excellent. Okay, so those groups, they did a giveaway in promotion of the first Bionicle movie, Mask of Light, in 2003. And this is a one-of-a-kind Platinum Avohkii. And at the time, it was valued at around roughly $7,000. Take me through the full process, because, somebody won the contest, they had the mask. Like, one picture of them was taken back in 2003 with them with the mask, and then it wasn't seen up until 2013, a full 10 years later. What happened at that point? Take me through the story.
All right. So essentially what had happened was the kid who won it, he was fairly young at the time. I want to say, I believe he was probably, about 11 years old. So he won this mask, and he won all of the sets for 2003. A big screen TV, VHS player, DVD player. I don't remember which exactly, but he won all this cool stuff. And for him being a kid at the time, he's like, wow, this mask is cool, but whatever. And he just kind of put it in a box, put it under his bed, and would occasionally check it out and everything. And that was about it, And over time, he kind of got out of Bionicle. He was saving up to go to college, and as he was getting ready to move out, he remembered, oh, hey, I have this thing, and it might be worth something. Like, this might actually be worth a pretty good little amount, And so what he did was he was actually on his way to a jewelry store when he saw signs for this Lego hobby shop. And I forget the name of the guy's shop. It's in Santa Rosa, California. It happened to be the exact same, home. It was this guy's hometown that this shop was located in. And, so he was on his way to the jeweler to see what he could get for scrap metal out of it. And he saw the signs, and so he pulled in, and he was talking with the owner for a little while, and, he was just going to describe it to the people at the jewelry shop. I guess he didn't have the mask on him at the time. And so the owner of the store was like, okay, this is probably like a $15 mask, the guy at the Lego hobby shop, Caleb. And he's like, it probably isn't anything super valuable, whatever. Gave the guy his card and said, when you get the chance, send me an email, we'll take a look at it. And Caleb, the owner of the store, he went home and he kind of did some research, and he's like, wow, this thing might be worth some serious money. So, he started kind of playing around with the idea. He waited, and apparently like a month later, this guy finally emailed him, because I guess he forgot to get any contact information from the guy. He just gave him his contact information, so he had no way to get a hold of him, And so finally he hears from the original owner, and the guy's like, I still have it. I haven't scrapped it or anything yet. I'm looking to sell it still. And the guy's like, okay, well, bring it into my shop. And so he brought it in. They weighed it, made sure it measured up to, what it was supposed to weigh. It had the original case and the original letter from Cartoon Network and Toonami and all that. Mm-hmm. And so the guy, they went to a jewelry store together and said, what would you give him for this right now for scrap metal? And, the jeweler was like, I believe he said like, $3,800. So a pretty substantial amount, but, the guy really, he didn't really want to melt it down, because he knew that it was something, it was worth more to anybody than it was, just as metal in a sense. So, he says about a week passes by, and they agree to meet up at a park. And Caleb, the owner of the store, goes, and, they meet at the park. And Caleb's like, this is the highest I can give you for it. This is what I'll give you for it. And I guess the guy called his mom. They talked it over for a minute, and he agreed. So Caleb Raff, I believe the name of his store is the Brick Hut.
Yep, that's it.
Santa Rosa, California. He bought the mask that day. They signed a bill of sale and everything, and off he went to college and all that. And that was the last I had heard about him. And, so Caleb Raff owns it for a little while, posts some pictures, and he decides, I'm going to sell this thing. I'm going to keep it in my shop for a while and use it as advertisement because, it's one of the rarest Lego pieces in the world, if not the rarest Lego piece in the world. So he keeps it as a shop on display. There were some news articles and everything about it, about, how he has this piece in his shop, local paper stuff, nothing too major. And so he has it for, I want to say probably about 6 months. And he decides, okay, I've had this for a while now. Now it's gotten me some more publicity and everything. I'm gonna sell it. So he listed on eBay, and yeah, the asking price he had it at was $29,000, and it was listed as the rarest Lego piece in existence, one of a kind. I remember being a kid and seeing that this guy won it and being like, wow, that's really cool, but I am never gonna even see this mask. Like, to put it in perspective, the mask I've always wanted for the longest time was the solid gold owl, because to me that mask was obtainable and the platinum Avohkii wasn't, because like you said, no one had ever heard anything from the original owner in 10 years. He wasn't active in the community. He wasn't even on any of the sites, BZ Power and so forth. He was never active on any of those. And yeah, so the fact that this came up for sale, I was like, is this the legit thing? Is it a fake? There were a lot of questions. First thing I did was I messaged the guy, and I said, hey, can you send me some more pictures, and so on. And, some time goes by. He kind of lowers the price a little bit to see if anyone wants to do it. But a lot of people were willing to pay what I paid, if not a little bit more. But the thing was, they all wanted him to ship it to their location. And with it being as rare and valuable as it is, Caleb was really uncomfortable with the thought of shipping it. And so, me personally, I'm located in Utah, and he was located in California. And so, after, like I say, he probably had that listed for about a year or so. He probably had it listed for sale and all that. And during that time, I had been messaging back and forth with him, trying to get an idea at the, what he was looking to get out of it realistically. I told him, the fact that he lives in California and I live in Utah, it is a potential, like I could drive there or fly there. I could pick this thing up in person. We wouldn't have to worry about it. So finally, after months and months of negotiating and messaging the guy, I got him to hold it for me. So the part to me that was always crazy about it was I got him to hold it for me, but there was a timeline. And he said that if I could get the money for the mask in this allotted amount of time, it's mine. But the thing was, that allotted amount of time was it was 9 months he gave me in order to save up the money to get the mask. It was 9 months.
Wow.
And at the time, the current job that I was working at, I made just shy of the so I paid the $15,000 for it, and I actually the job I was currently working at, I made like $13-something thousand a year.
Oh no.
And so I had 9 months, to try to come up with this amount of money. And during this time, I was an adult, so I had bills, I had rent bills, I had my car payments, all that stuff I had to consider as well. So I knew it was a long shot, but I said, I tell you what, man, if you hold it for me and I'll give it my all, and I'll see what I can do. And so he just holds on to it for me, and I message him probably once a week or so, just, hey, here's where I'm at, here's how things are going. Yeah, and so the main two things that substantially helped towards funding this project was, at the time, BZ Power was like the main Bionicle play still, even though Bionicle had been canceled, it ended and everything for, a couple years at that point. It was still one of the main places to go for Bionicle activity. So I got on BZ Power and I made a topic in the buy sell trade forums, and I said, I'm selling my collection, which everyone at the time was like, whoa, this guy's collection is pretty crazy. Like I had, a lot of pretty rare collectible masks and, completed collections of stuff. And I offered, anything in my entire collection, it was up for sale. And the whole thought process behind that was, this is a one-of-a-kind piece. If I can actually get this piece, I can theoretically, over time, I can buy back everything that's in my collection over time. Mm-hmm. I can replace all those items I had sold. And so, I made the topic, and I started selling things and, saving up all the money I possibly could. Mm-hmm. And the second thing also was, working the job, saving as much money as I could. And when I say that, I do mean every penny. It was, if there was something cheaper I could buy to help save some money on something else, that's what I would do. And, with those two things there, and I was also actually selling things that weren't Bionicle related, because to me, the Platinum Avohkii, it was going to be the holy grail of the collection. It was going to be the one thing that if I stood a chance at actually getting the only completed, 100% complete set and collectible collection for all of Bionicle at the time. And this was long before G2 was even a thing at the time, really, Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the idea behind that. And so during that time, about 3 months into that time, I had saved up a pretty good little bit. Every day it was still a stressful thing, because it was like, I've only got this much time left and I'm doing everything I can. And it was still like, is this going to be enough? I would hate to get there and be like, okay, I'm still like $1,000 short. Can you give me another month or, whatever? And try to coerce him, because I'd already been talking to him for so long that, I didn't want to push my luck and all that stuff. So, like I say, about 3 months into that time, I actually got an email from someone I had messaged, probably 2 or 3 years before this. I had this reply to this email, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, it's been so long since I messaged this guy. And this guy that I'm talking about is the guy that bought the original solid gold HOW from the previous admin of BZ Power. And he said, hey, I got this and I'm going to sell it. And you messaged me forever ago and showed some interest. So if you want it, here's what I'm asking for it, and it's yours. And I was like, oh, crap. Like, this is like the ultimate choice between the mask I've always wanted and one mask that's like, it's right there, and I've already struck a deal for it. So I was like, the thought process, of course, behind this was, okay, I've got this much saved up. I could buy that solid gold HOW right now. I basically have to start over saving up for the Platinum Avohkii, but I would have the one mask that I had always dreamt of having. So I decided I would go for that as well. So I bought.
You cut out there for a moment. Andre? Now, for anyone listening, he is on a phone, so...
There we go. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Sorry about that. Okay, no so, anyway, as I was saying, so, I bought the solid gold HOW with the hopes of, at least, if I fail at getting the Platinum Avohkii, I have the one mask I always dreamt of having. Mm-hmm. So, I got that. 2 days later, I was holding it in my hands, and it was a dream come true for me, And I checked my savings to see how much I had saved up towards the Platinum Avohkii, and I had about $350 left.
Oh, my goodness.
So I was like, this is the start of getting it all over again.
Oh,
and
man.
So at that point, like I say, I had about 7 months left to save up for the Platinum Avohkii. So pretty crazy, but all said and done, 3 days before the meetup date, I finally had enough money to get it. 3 days was the day I finally got the last bit of the cash for it, and it was actually I went to the bank and I took out a signature loan, which is just a loan with no collateral for $2,000, and I had enough money to get it right then, and it was like that much money and gas to get there and back, and that was it. So it was, like I say, every penny I possibly could save for 9 months for and working as many hours as I could get, selling off as anything I found that I could replace later or didn't particularly care all too much about. And yeah, it was quite the journey, but we met up with him in person. The whole transaction went well. He was a really cool and nice guy, and yeah, it went really well. So
wow.
I've had it for, I think I've had it for about 3 years now. So
okay, so there's a lot to unpack there.
yeah, quite the story. I just didn't want to leave out some of the bigger details.
I appreciate that. That was fantastic. So, okay, a couple things to I want to touch upon, and so we're gonna kind of go back all the way to the beginning. So first of all, the guy who initially won it, he was on his way to a gosh darn jewelry store to get it for scrap metal. I'm really glad I don't know him in person. I would have chastised him for the rest of my knowing him. Oh my goodness! It came that close to being melted down and gone forever. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, from what Caleb told me, he was on his way to at least see what he could get for it from this jewelry shop, which also was kind of a pawn shop in a sense as well. So, when I heard that, I was like, oh man, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, that is that's really crazy. Okay, so moving into it, it looks here you at least have had it for, you're coming up on 4 years, because you initially posted the video where you filmed the transaction, which is a great idea, by the way. Just for anyone listening, if you're ever worried about a transaction for any item, either have a third party, which you had 2 of, which is awesome, or film it. It's a really good idea. But in this instance, you posted the video on March 14th, 2014, so we're coming up on 4 years, which is really impressive. And then apparently, I'm looking here on the page, and yeah, like you mentioned earlier, the original owner, well, the second owner of the brick hut in Santa Rosa, Caleb Raff, he tried to put the mask up for sale on eBay for $29,000. The bid went up, according to BZ Power, on February 5th, 2013, and lasted until March 5th. So, at least about a month. February, March, yeah, no, that's right. And
yeah, that sounds about correct there. So
yeah, so to me, that's kind of, obviously, when I was with the former group that talked about this, we made a video discussing how we thought that was an incredibly outrageous price, and narrowed the actual pure metal value down to about $3,000 or so. Which, I still think $29,000 is a bit much, but it is an incredibly valuable item. How did you manage to get it down to half of that?
Basically, it was, like I say, it was about a year of messaging back and forth saying, this is feasibly, he said, most of the offers he got were anywhere between $4,000 or $5,000 up to about $18,000, $19,000. And as soon as he said that, I said, well, I think a good middle ground would be, right around the $15,000 range, because that's still a lot of money for a little piece, but at the same time, it is something that is, it's a one of a kind, handcrafted, it is really a unique item, and it's pretty crazy, and so like I say, it was just messaging back and forth, and eventually we just agreed upon that number, because he said that I was the only person who was willing to come and actually pick it up from him in person. And we actually both agreed that we would save some time, and we would both just drive halfway and meet in the middle and do the transaction in the middle of the 2 states. So that was actually really cool.
That's fair enough. That was very nice of him. Okay, so that's really fascinating. I'm doing a little bit more research. There's a great article that I'll link in the description below by the Press Democrat, and they really go in depth and have a great timeline regarding the sale of this mask. And it says here that because this was a $15,000 sale, it does make it the most expensive Lego piece ever made, and it surpasses the original holder of that title, which was a 14-karat gold 2x4 Lego brick, which is exactly what you mentioned earlier, which was sold for about $12,500. So that's really fascinating. Now, I did briefly want to touch on the gold how, because I thought is really interesting how you mentioned you were like, okay, I'm just going to cut my losses. If this doesn't work out, something worked out from this. You don't have it anymore.
Yeah, I do not have it anymore. Actually, it's kind of a sad tale. But yeah, I don't have that, and a few of my other more rare sought after collectibles anymore. Essentially, long story short, while I was in college, I was working a job and I was going to school and all that, and I wasn't making quite enough money through my job that I could sustain, getting to school and back, and groceries and rent and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up selling some of my more rare collectibles, but stuff that was commonly available kind of thing. I started off with stuff like the misprint masks, and eventually, it wasn't quite enough to keep everything going the way I wanted. So the sad story with the solid gold how is I made a deal with someone. I sold them 4 of the 8 vacuum metal Chronicle. The buyer lived in the UK, and I shipped it to him and checked the tracking, everything. Everything was fine.
Oh no.
And it went to his house.
Oh no.
It was there for a day, and it got marked as return to sender on the package, but I never got it back.
Oh.
And so he filed a claim for PayPal, and so I had to refund him the money that was there for PayPal, which the PayPal account I would occasionally have to use to make some of these sales were my parents' PayPal account.
Oh, no.
And so $800 came out of my parents' checking account 3 days before their house payment was due.
Oh, no.
And it was just really bad timing, really, really bad timing, because I didn't have anything I could replace it with. And so I said, well, as much as I love this mask, I'm not gonna mess over, just make it a lot more difficult for my parents. I'm not gonna, stuff like that. I just said I'll do what I have to do, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided I would sell the solid gold how, and I sold it to one of my good friends who, as you said, he will also be probably on your show later on.
Yep.
And so I sold it to him, and I believe I shipped it UPS the next day. He had it the next day after he paid for it, and it's been with him ever since. And it's something that I had to do, but I deeply regret, because had there have been any other way for me to pull it off, I would have. But yeah, it was one of those things that it really sucked when it happened. But I mean, now it's just a regret. But at least I know that there's more than one of those out there, so I stand a decent chance at replacing it down the line somewhere. Yeah. So we'll just have to see. So
that means like 8 of the vacuum metal Chronicle are just poof, right?
4 of the 8. 4. Yeah, I sold half of the. Apparently, the guy who bought them from me had the other 4, and so I broke my full set of 8, and I sold him 4 of those 8 for about $200 a piece. And so, after shipping and everything, after the whole PayPal claim, like I say, it messed my parents over pretty good, and so I couldn't do that to them, especially because it was a transaction like that I did, had nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
And so, I did what I had to do, and
did you ever hear?
It kind of sucks, again? But I've messaged him on and off periodically since it happened. It happened. I think I sold that probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And I've messaged him on and off, and he claims he never received the package. I find it kind of hard to believe, because From what I was told, I've shipped packages all over the world, like many places, and from what I was told, it sits in their customs for 10 days before it gets marked as return to sender, and for it to have been less than, it was like 12 hours, and it was marked return to sender, and then that was the last time the tracking even updated. It was marked return to sender, and that was it. And so, eventually I tried calling the post office and seeing if they had any idea where it was, and they said that if it's lost, it would go here, and they searched all over for it. They never found it, and they said that by now, more than likely, it ended up either being opened, seeing if it was something they could donate to anybody, or just going straight to the crusher. So that's kind of a sad thought, because, all of those extremely rare collectible masks and, other items from just Bionicle's history, for one, they're really just unique items, and two, they're really expensive and sought after items that always increase in value over time. They've done nothing but go up in value since. And so for those four to be lost, that's a pretty big shame. So
oh my goodness, that is a shame. Well, that's why, you always sell to people you know first. And
yep.
I am very glad to hear that the person you sold it to, has it, because I know him. He's a really great guy, and for anyone listening, he's gonna live at least. He's gonna be my next guest next week, and because you guys have been in contention for that title for a while. Real quick, I want to take a quick break here to say, if you guys have any questions, then live, feel free to send them to me on Twitter at the Eljay Johnsen hashtag the Eljay Johnsen Show, and we'll get to them before the end, because we do have a question, and I don't want to ask it, but I kind of have to. But in any case, you guys have been in contention for quite a while, and I'm glad to know that you guys work together in that. And I do have some questions pertaining to that in just a moment. But first, I know that I think you still have them. I don't know. You also picked up some prototype pieces a little while back.
You could say that, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a fairly large amount of prototype items, exclusive items, things like that. I've never really been so essentially for my collection, I view things that like most of the general public would consider like a completed collection. That's kind of what I would always go for. And then, as time went on and these more rare pieces came up for sale, I would try to snag them up just to add one more unique item to the collection. I never really viewed it as, okay, this is going to complete everything, because, if I did that, then I would have to have every single different prototype mask and weapon, those there's just feasibly, I think there's no way that there would ever be, something where, if you're counting all the prototypes and things like that, I really don't believe that anyone could have a perfectly complete collection in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But in the sense of, all of the sets, combo models and so forth, collectibles, all that stuff, there's a good chance that a lot of people can have relatively completed collections. So
yeah, I think there are definitely tiers and brackets to completion. Like, you can have a complete collectible collection, or you can have at least the largest collectible collection. You can have a complete combo model collection. Like for me, for instance, I have a complete set collection, because when I did my review series, where I reviewed every single set that had been released, I had to get them all to review them. So like I feel like I have a complete set collection. I've got all the sets. That's good. But I don't have a complete collectible collection nor combo model collection, and I know some of them are kind of a gray area. I don't consider certain combo models to be sets, just promotional, like what are they, like 3-in-1 boxes? But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
So yeah.
See, and I actually that's kind of how I viewed them as well. As different brackets and so on. So.
Yeah. But like in instances like where you and the other fellow are stand, it gets to a point where it isn't even a complete collection. It's just largest and quote unquote most complete. But
that sounds about correct.
Yeah. And like for me, I'm never gonna do that. I'm content having a complete set collection because that was my goal. But that is fascinating nonetheless. Let me see.
And you know what's actually quite funny is for some reason a lot of people in the community always thought that when it came down to it, that me and the other guy, they thought that we were kind of enemies in a sense, because we were both always after all the different items that we possibly could get. And so if something came up that neither of us had, it came down to either who was willing to trade more or who was willing to spend more. But it's actually quite the opposite. Me and him are, relatively good friends. We, if I ever found something that I already had that he needed, I would try to help him out and so forth. I actually got 2 of my rarest masks I ever had through a trade through him. It was a 3-part trade that we did. Wow. And so I always found it kind of interesting that people thought that, like me and him were enemies in a sense, when the way I kind of see it is more of a friendly rivalry. So
yeah, those are exactly the words that were in my head. Friendly rivalry. That seems like it. That's excellent. I am happy to hear that.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's an awesome guy, and I still message him every now and then, be like, "Hey, you want to sell me back my mask yet, or what?" kind of thing. Just kidding around with him. But,
oh yeah, and he sends you a message.
It's been a while since I've done that.
Want to sell me that platinum Avohkii?
Yeah, pretty much. So
that's fantastic.
It's pretty great. He's an awesome guy.
Excellent. Let me see. There was something else I was going to touch upon. Like I said it just a moment ago.
I believe you were talking about a question that someone put in.
Oh, no, I'll get to that closer to the end of things. I'm dreading it. You know who you are. So, there is one other thing that because I remember hearing about this, because, when everything was happening, I remember hearing that this was a thing you wanted to do. At some point, you wanted to open up what basically amounted to a Bionicle museum due to the large, extensive collection that you had. Tell me a little bit about that.
So essentially, that's still kind of in the works. Essentially, it's called the Bionicle Archives, and really, it's what I call it is that just because I love the name. I actually kind of made a post on BZ Power a while ago, and I said, here are some of the names I'm thinking of. If you guys have any other names, kind of throw them out, and we'll all kind of vote and see what we, as a community, think would be awesome to see, And so really what it is I view it as, I say a museum, really it would be my collection, which when I'm in a more permanent living space, I plan on having an entire area of that living space dedicated to my collection. And I'll have it on display, and I kind of viewed it as a museum in a sense to where, but back when I was a little younger, I thought maybe I'll try to rent a place out and do, Lego sales on the side as like a hobby thing, but then have it be this museum that people could come in, they could see the whole collection and everything, and then if they wanted to, they could buy, bulk Legos and so on. But really what I've kind of recently have decided over the, probably about the last year or so, is that I would have everything on display, and anyone in the community who wanted to see anything, they would just, come on in and check it all out, and it'd just be an awesome experience. I'd show them around to some of the sets maybe they've never seen, some of the more rare collectibles, some of the other odds and ends that, half the stuff that I've amassed over the years, I didn't even know were a thing when I was a kid. It's pretty crazy. So that was kind of the idea behind the museum. In a sense, it's the Bionicle Archives. I've got a page on Facebook for it. I haven't posted there very much recently due to some more personal issues with relocating and everything, but I am still working on the collection and building things up. And there's actually an awesome page on Facebook that kind of re-sparked the fire to get really serious back into collecting again. It's Bionicle mask posting on Facebook.
I figured it was. In the back of my head, I was thinking it's probably, that's what he's talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, mask posting on Facebook is an awesome place. A lot of the times there are a lot of memes and so on, but in reality, people actually they're there. They care about Bionicle. They care about the community, and everyone's always wanting to do things, and it's just an awesome place. And so that kind of helps spark some more motivation to get back after the collection a little more serious than it has been, and yeah, so all in all, the end goal would be have a room that can just have everything from my whole collection everywhere, and yeah, so that's kind of the idea there, is just everything on display. And I kind of would like to have maybe like name tags for a lot of the stuff, or like display cases and stuff, to where I could just kind of walk around the room and say, here's everything. If you have any questions, you can ask, and you just kind of give them a brief history of what Bionicle is and what the storyline is. And even people who aren't necessarily fans of the series, or just wanted to see some cool collection, they could come in and they would be able to tell what it was about by the time they were done. So
yeah, that sounds phenomenal. Like, honestly, that sounds really cool, because I have my full collection up on, like, high up on a shelf, and it's all in a row. So they're all in one single place, and anytime I'm just out looking, I always glance up and look at them and be like, oh yeah, that's awesome. So being able to see that, given the presentation, which has to be better than Lego's standard, because I've got some bones to pick with them about that. But that would be phenomenal for Bionicle Fantasy. Let me see what there's something else. Oh yeah, you mentioned you had some fun facts about your collection that you hadn't known prior.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing too. Real quick though, before I get into that, I do want to say, with the collection, another main thing that really helped me kind of stick with it and want to finish everything up over the year were, I've got some close friends who, one of them, he loves Bionicle. He doesn't really have any sets all that much himself, but he loves coming over, and he's basically like a walking BS01. He knows so many random facts. Yeah, he knows so many random facts about Bionicle that sometimes I'm like, did that actually happen? Or like, am I forgetting this? And so, but he doesn't, he'll come over and help me with certain projects I'm working on. And, it's always just great. And then I have another friend who, last year he decided he really wanted to get after collecting again. And so he started amassing all the sets throughout G1. He didn't particularly care all for G2 all that much, but he started amassing all of his collection, and it was really cool to see, because there were some sets I had duplicates of that I would give to him, and it was just really cool to be able to share that locally. And that was kind of the idea with the museum as well, was these people, when they come to see it, it's no longer just this, here's pictures of this really cool collection online. Like, it's something that people could actually come and see in person and appreciate all of the time that has gone into it. And another cool little thing too is, one of the trades I had made years ago was, I don't remember what I traded him, but I ended up getting about 300 TNGMs, the trans neon green Mirus.
Oh my goodness.
And so I actually I plan on giving those away to anyone who wants to come see the collection. If you, once it's all said and done, if anyone wants to check it out, they get a cool piece to leave with, that hey, I came and saw the collection. And it's just a kind of another cool little idea I had. Plus, it's probably my favorite mask in my favorite color, so I always thought that was pretty cool too.
Also, nice mirror lover. You know what? We got to make a club of our own. You got all those trans neon green mirrors? I got a large gold one, so there we go.
Gonna say, I back in the day when you were doing the recap reviews and everything, I actually watched a good amount of those, and they were pretty good, man. I liked seeing some of the sets, and everything, because during that time, it was throughout college and everything, and even beforehand, I didn't always have all of my sets on display, and so to be able to see some of those sets is like a reminder, it's always just kind of cool to see. But Yeah, I always thought you were doing a pretty good job with all the reviews and everything. So figured I'd
Thank
hurry
you.
and toss that in too.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm glad I finished them. I'm glad that, like, I think I mentioned this to you in brief. In the way that you are the owner of the rarest Bionicle mask, I'm the title holder for being the one to review all the sets, and I make no claims to their quality, just the fact I did it. But see,
That's awesome.
I was also talking to you. It's like, yeah, you know what? I'm up in Idaho, and for anyone listening who doesn't follow me on Twitter, A, you should, and B, yes, I live in Idaho. That's the void. Um, I was saying, hey, you know what? I should come on down. I'd love to do some videos in your collection. I'll bring my mask, and so that way we can both take a picture with our one-of-a-kind items.
There you go. I'm
Yeah.
totally down, man. It would be awesome to, there's not that many people in the community that I have met personally, like on a personal level, outside of, messaging on the forums and everything.
Yeah.
And so, anytime I see a Bionicle fan of any kind, I try to say, hey, if you were active on BZ Power before, or maybe mask posting, anything like that, like, this is who I am. Maybe we've met before, whatever and so on. So it's always cool to just, share something in common with someone when, most people have no idea what you're talking about. So
Yeah, no, exactly. It's always fun to hang out with people of like mind and interest. It's a blast. But
it's always a good time.
yeah, nah, it absolutely is. All right, well, we'll put that on the calendar. All right, so
Getting a little more back on topic here, the interesting facts of the collection that I kind of amassed recently, because this is projects I have been working on over the past about a year now, I guess. So just to give an idea real quick, I made a list of if anyone out there was to have one of every Bionicle set just from G1, just the main sets, no combo models, promotional models, stuff like that. I made the set list, and it came up to a total of 231 sets, and that, I guess that includes Click and Clack, and
that's going to include a few other combination models. 231?
Well, okay, so 231, that's the total I came up with here, and that's I guess that was through brick set. I didn't count there were a couple models on here that were like there were, like, say, the Corona poly bags. I didn't count the mask packs or the poly bags.
Yeah, I don't count
kind
those
of
either.
In a sense. I counted the sets that were actual sets in a sense, and I came up to a total of 231 for 2001 and 2010.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a little bit different than some, but so that was just the number I came up with. Out of that collection of 2001 through 2010, it was a total of 24,022 pieces. If you were to have one of every single set from this current list that I'm speaking of, to give an idea to the size of some of the projects I've been working on for my display, I have with me right here. This is 2002. There's a total of 22 sets. It's the Borak, some of the Titan sets,
Good.
and the Toa Nuva. I guess Master Builder sets in there as well. 22 total sets. The piece count for that year was 1,925 pieces. For just my 2002 display, this is only counting the current projects, like I said, I've been working on for about the past year. This isn't counting any of my set collection. This isn't counting any combo models, alternate models, collectibles, anything like that. The current 2002 project that I've been working on, the piece count for that is 11,568 pieces.
Oh, goodness. I saw a glimpse of your project, I think yesterday in one of the chats we're both in, and yeah, I believe that estimate.
Yeah, so I'll throw out a spoiler here for anybody who's going to be watching this or is watching this. One of my projects for the whole display is a Borak swarm. For that Borak swarm, it's pretty crazy. I did the math, and I currently own 25 of each Borak. So in total, that's 150 Borak. With 1,000 pieces per color, that's 6,000 pieces for just my Borak swarm. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. There are a couple other projects that were included in this. One more I'll spoil. That's from 2002. It's my Exotoa collection. So, and like I say, this is part of just this display idea. This doesn't include my sets. So I also, in retrospect here, I have the 25 Borak of each color, so 150 in total. But then I also have another one of each color for the sets, and then I also have one of each, enough to make all of their combo and alternate models, which I don't remember how many there are, but I'd estimate probably, including my set collection, it would be right around between 28 and 30 of each Borak. I'd say probably closer to 30 of each Borak. But as for the Exotoas, just for my display idea, I have 6, and in total of my collection, it would be 9.
Okay.
So yeah, I still need the pesky black pin axles for one of my Exotoa, but other than that, those are perfectly done. That's why I say they're projects, is because they still need just a little bit more work to make them perfect.
Mm-hmm. My goodness, that's incredible.
That's yeah, it's just one of the other random facts there. So, and like I say, if I combine just my display idea for 2002 with my display idea for 2001, I already have almost the exact same piece count as one of every set for 2001 through 2010, and that's only for those 2 years, not including my set or combo model collection. So that's the part that's crazy to me, was because I'm planning some of these big projects that I've never really seen done, at least to this scale. I've seen some of this stuff done before, but never quite to this scale.
Yeah.
The whole reason I went with 25 of the Borak was because in the story they're a swarm, and I figured that 25 was a pretty round number. It would total 150. It'd be easy to remember. It would be an even number in the sense of piece count, and yeah, so I was like, well, 25 of each, that's a lot of pieces. But the thing that's crazy is I've told some of my other friends about this project, the Borak swarm, and they're more Lego fans, and so they're like, okay, 6,000 pieces, that's not that big of a deal. But then it's like, one Borak is 40 pieces, and it takes up the same kind of room on a display that a Lego set with 300, 400 pieces would.
Yeah.
It's just depending on the model, so on. But so when that's the thing that people kind of have a hard time with, is with the display, it's each piece on these models is larger in general than a standard Lego piece, and so the part I'm having a hard time with now is trying to figure out displaying this entire collection, because it's going to be massive, it's going to be huge, and it's going to be difficult to try to display everything the way I want within a certain price point, and that's kind of the part that scares me.
Yeah.
But it's all a work in progress. So
wow, that is incredible. That sounds fun. Maybe after this show, I don't think we have enough time to do it right now, I want to compare notes with you to see how you got to that number. I'm just curious, because
okay,
for my recap finale, I had to total everything. So the number I
I actually fanboy here for you real quick. I actually watched a recap review like 2 days ago, just to compare it with my notes and be like, okay, let's see how accurate some of this is. And that's another crazy thing is like one of these projects I'm working on, is a lot of custom work. It's a lot of one of the other projects I'm working on, which I don't want to spoil quite yet. It's getting really close to being done, and once it's done, it's going to be something that personally I've never seen anyone do. There have been some pretty close kind of things, but nothing near to the scale of what I'm doing. essentially it's all really close attention to detail, and it's like I say, it's something that only a few people in the community know of, and that's just people who I actually hang out with in person who can help me build these projects. And it's because, you know, that's just, some of these are just so ridiculous that half the time I'm like, geez, like, you know. And with me, I'm a parts purist is what I call it, you know.
Yeah.
If a set's supposed to have old gray on it and it has new gray on it, even if I don't have the piece in old gray, I will not put it on the set. I'll wait until I get the piece in old gray, and then I'll make it perfect, you know. And it's even if something as tiny and insignificant as like a gray 3-length axle, if it's supposed to have a black one, I won't put a gray one in there, you know.
That makes sense.
And so it's attention to detail. And, you know, some of these projects I'm working on, I have one reference picture to work with, and so it's like I have to build this entire model based on one reference picture or one stylized art piece. So I mean, that kind of gives it a little hint of kind of a hint of towards what I'm
I think I know what you're going for now.
But there's well, the thing is though too is there is currently, if I did my numbers right, I'm probably working on about 10 to 12 different projects. Another major project I'm working on, which I can reveal, is I've decided that I've been getting some really good deals on sealed sets recently. And so down the road, once I have most of my collection done the way I would like, my plan is to try to buy, you know, depending on the deal, probably about one or so sealed set per month from all of G1 until I get to the really expensive sets, or, you know, until I have them all. And so currently I don't have a whole lot of sealed sets from G1. I have a pretty good amount from G2. But currently last month I got a screaming deal on a sealed ear neck from 2006 and a sealed Takanuva from 2003, which it was cool to have that sealed, you know, Takanuva with the platinum Avohkii and everything. And, you know, just other random projects. Like I made a mask display, which for the platinum Avohkii, which was really cool. I designed it and made it fit within the little display box that it didn't come with the platinum Avohkii. It was something that the guy I bought the mask from had. Solid black, really cool. It's all glass, has a mirrored back, and so I made a display for the mask that'll actually fit inside of that case, and it kind of makes the mask look as if it's floating, and it looks pretty cool. So, you know, just other random things to try to make the collection a little more unique and not so average, I guess. Which at this point, I guess it's not really average, but
no, I
but
wouldn't
still,
say so.
It's a work in progress.
Okay, that is crazy. All right, because I have some things I want to send you after this, but okay. Let's go ahead and very quickly get onto the questions now. We only have one today, but this is the one I've been dreading basically the entire time. This is from at H Boreas 9 or Mount Huey. Ask Andre about the platinum Avohkii on Good Guy.
So, okay, can I ask why were you dreading this question so much? Because as soon as you said you were dreading it, I was thinking like, ask Andre what kind of idiot pays that kind of money for a little, you know, metal Lego piece, and it's like
I have a sort of history with Good Guy.
I've seen a little bit of that history, but not much. But before I answer the question, you know, another thing that a lot of people tend to think for some reason is like, you know, I've shown the platinum Avohkii to some, you know, maybe work friends, colleagues, you know, stuff like that. People like my manager for my current job, you know, stuff like that. And a lot of people are like, okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. Or like, you know, they find out somehow, or I tell them that, you know, I own this really, you know, like, hey, tell me about yourself, you know. And it's like, well, I collect a certain line from Lego. I do some of these other things, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so, you know, I actually, to put it in perspective, I've had at least 10 people. I'm like, yeah, you know, I own the rarest Lego piece in the world. And they're like, really? That's at least a unique thing. It's pretty cool. And I'm just like, okay, well, you know, out of curiosity, not to like sound cocky or anything, but just out of my own curiosity here, what do you think the rarest Lego piece in the world is worth? And like I said, probably 10 people have said anywhere between $50 and $300. And I always laugh so hard. And then, I say, okay, well, here's a fact for you. And this was something I read online. Apparently in 2012, a study was released that there are 64 Lego pieces, and they said bricks, but obviously Technic and other things. So I said 64 Lego pieces for every person on the planet, and that was in 2012. So obviously the number's just gone up since then, but I'm kind of curious to see what it's at now that it's the fresh start of 2018. But after I tell them that, they some people are like, maybe $1,000, a couple $1,000. Some people give it a more realistic thing, and once I tell them how much I paid, they're like, wow, that's crazy. Like, you're crazy. You could have bought a really nice car for that. You could have all this stuff that I could have done. And to me, it's like, well, the thing is, it's kind of an investment in a sense, because since I've owned it, I've only had one offer for it that was less than what I paid for. Every other offer I've had for it was either what I paid for it or substantially more. Actually, I had an offer about a month after I owned it from a guy in Singapore for $23,000. So already $8,000 more than what I paid. And obviously, I'm not planning on selling it anytime soon. I'm planning on keeping it as long as I can for the sake of the collection. But in a sense, I also feel like, maybe it's not right for me to own this thing for the rest of my life. Like, maybe there's someone else out there who will appreciate it like I did and like I still do.
I can think of someone.
Years down the line. Yeah, I can think of someone too. Don't worry. So, I'm thinking, maybe someday I'll get rid of it, but obviously for right now I'm not. And it always blows my mind, that people assume, to me, it's kind of like comic books. There's always that super rare. There's always, a lot of people that are like, wow, that's kind of nerdy, and it's like, in my eyes, everybody has something that they either collect that is either they collect. It's something that the general public would see as nerdy, and to me, it's like, I don't care what's nerdy, what's not. It's all about what brings you happiness, And like for me, having that piece and knowing that I'm so close to having the collection exactly the way I want, that's priceless. So slowly but surely I'm getting there.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's fair. I did have probably one more question, but first I need you to absolve for your crimes against humanity, which was put in the priced Platinum Avohkii on Good Guy of all people.
So the Good Guy thing. So it basically I saw on, like I say, Bionicle mask posting on Facebook. People were putting these different things on Good Guy. For some reason, he was kind of in the sense of memes and the way that mask posting kind of is. Good Guy is like their representation of something that's it's funny. It's a meme. It's they pretend as if Good Guy is almost a god to them in a sense, you know. And it's just like a meme, It's just something funny. And so the guy that is going to be on your show, he actually posted a thing about the solid gold Hal that I once owned on Good Guy. And I was like,
that? Oh, that's
this
good
is,
to know.
yeah. So he did that. I thought it was hilarious. Honestly, I was like, this is top notch right here. This is so funny. And so I thought, what would be great is if I took Good Guy out to my hometown the next time I went out there, pulled the Platinum Avohkii out of the secret safe place it's in, and put the Platinum Avohkii on Good Guy, took a picture of it with both of the weapons because people can't seem to agree on which weapon Good Guy is supposed to have. And so I did that. I posted the pictures, and I did it for the sake of the meme and just to be funny. It wasn't anything serious. I actually got probably one of the best pictures from anybody that I ever have received. Someone actually photoshopped the background with a galaxy and everything as if it was floating through space, and I thought it was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen. And it was more of a, I'm going to do this for the community because I think it's funny and because I think they'll appreciate it. And so that was kind of the purpose behind that.
Okay. I see. I understand now. I suppose, in some way, with great power comes great responsibility. And you have abused yours. No, I'm kidding, of course. That's fun.
Yeah, good guys, not all that great. But
yeah, I know, I melted
it was it was pretty great to see it. So I'm not gonna lie, it was a pretty fun little experience, especially because where I currently live now and my hometown, it's about a 3-hour drive.
Yikes.
So I went out there. I picked up my friend who started collecting again. Shout out to my friend Mihai. He's awesome. He's one of the main guys who helps me with all my projects, and he actually during the time I was trying to buy the Platinum Avohkii, he actually bought some other stuff I used to collect. I was actually pretty big into Yu-Gi-Oh for a while, and so he actually bought all of my Yu-Gi-Oh collection from me he's like, if anyone's going to get this mask, it's you, because you're determined enough to get it. You're in the motions to get it. So I'm going to help you out any way I can. And he actually came with me when I went and picked it up and everything.
That's
too.
Awesome.
But, yeah, awesome guy.
Fantastic. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. I figure I'll ask, is there anywhere social media-wise you want people to follow you, kind of keep track of your activities?
So I don't really have like a Twitter necessarily. Basically, maybe drop a like on Bionicle Archives. It's just the Bionicle Archives on Facebook. You guys can check that out. I plan on posting more of my projects and stuff there, and then sharing it from that page to other pages. I'm currently working on a bunch of awesome secret projects that I would like to spoil for you guys, but at the same time, if I spoiled it, how would it be a surprise? So
yeah,
just plan on a lot of awesome, one-of-a-kind stuff for the collection. Other than that, nothing really comes to mind. Real quick, I'll touch on the other, because a lot of people are like, okay, this guy, he has a big collection, he owns Platinum Avohkii, whatever. So I'll just hurry and make a quick note. Some of the other rare items that I either have owned or own presently are, I have almost every set from 2001 in a prototype form, so I have those as well. I have a good amount of prototype masks, parts. Currently working on some custom 3D printed stuff for making some of these projects more of a reality instead of halved, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I have some store display banners that are like the size of a door. Promotional stuff. I've actually got a message from Christian Faber about possibly getting some stuff from him, just exclusive artwork, like sketches from one of the main guys for Bionicle's history. So I'm looking to see. Haven't heard back from him in a while, but I'm trying to.
He's hard to get a hold
talk
of.
Yeah, for sure. And so I'm trying to message stuff out with him, and yeah. So it's we got some really cool, unique stuff that's coming in. I have some other sealed sets that are really exclusive stuff, like combo model sets that are boxed together. Exclusive masks and stuff that are kind of different. The 2001 prototype sets; those are really cool. It's something that's, it's to me, it's the start of Bionicle. Really,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that'll be just really cool to see. So yeah, check out the Bionicle Archives on Facebook. Feel free. You'll be able to see my profile on there. Feel free to message me if you guys have any questions, anything like that. Add me as a friend, anything like that, and yeah, we can chat it all up. So
okay, fantastic. I'll try and get a link to that in the description below. All right, well,
sweet.
Andre, I really appreciate this. It's been a joy as a Bionicle fan to be able to chat with you. This has been quite informative, and I have had a good time. I hope you have as well.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's like you said earlier, it's a blast to just get together with people with common interests, and yeah. So I'm looking forward to our meetup. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So everyone listening, stay tuned for that. That'll hopefully happen sometime, maybe later this year. Who knows?
Oh, yeah.
We'll get together, make some videos and stuff, hang out, and
Yeah.
kind of be ready. I'd say be ready. Sometime in the next, I'm thinking hopefully in the next 2 months, I'll be posting a little more. Once some of the projects are finished, I would really hate to post work in progress pictures and everything of the whole projects and everything I'm working on.
Yeah.
So
that's understandable.
But
all right.
But yeah, thanks for having me on, man. It's been a blast.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so this has been, obviously, the Eljay Johnsen Show. If anyone has any questions for my guests at any point during the week or for myself, feel free to head on over to Twitter, at the Eljay Johnsen, and ask any questions to follow me for, gosh, I completely messed it up. Go to Twitter, at the Eljay Johnsen, follow me. I make guest announcement on Tuesday. If you have any questions for me or my guests over the week, email them to me, eljayjohnsen@gmail.com. Make sure it's an E, not an O, guys. All right, thank you all very much for listening, be it live or in the recording, which should be up later today. And we'll see you all next week. Farewell.